Tensions are really heating up now between Israel and Turkey. Netanyahu posted this on X recently, and I'll show you what Erdogan, president of Turkey, posted as well. He went on social media and he stated, the anti-Semitic dictator Erdogan, who is committing genocide against the Kurds, supports the Hamas terrorist organization, oppresses his own people, and imprisons political rivals, is the last person who can lecture the state of Israel on morality. The state of Israel and the IDF, the most moral army in the world, why do they, I think they rage bait when they make this statement, will continue to take forceful action against Iran and its proxies, which threaten the Middle East and the entire world. The most moral army thing. So Erdogan responds to that, and he says here, he actually made several tweets. In Gaza, where the Zionist genocide network continues its attacks, our Red Crescent has delivered more than 26,000 tons of humanitarian aid. And this is really talking about the aid, right? So then let's see, where does he go and directly start going after Netanyahu? He stated that Israel now threatens Turkey.
Netanyahu ve
and this is obviously in Turkish, but there's captions here. Let me go ahead and play it.
saldırıları.
So I'll go ahead and read what it says. Turkish president has issued one of his strongest warnings yet, declaring that Israel's attacks on Syria and Lebanon have reached a point where they now directly threaten Turkey itself. The NATO member has already cut all trade ties with Israel, accused Tel Aviv of becoming the biggest obstacle to peace in the Middle East. Erdogan claimed Israel is trying to set the region on fire from Africa to Cyprus and the Mediterranean. In a blistering attack, Erdogan openly branded Israel as an aggressor. This is not branded. It is. It just simply is. Now, keep in mind, if the United States didn't back Israel, Israel would just immediately retreat, like a little mouse, just immediately retreat back to its place, because it wouldn't have the ability to be the aggressor. It wouldn't have the ability to conduct all of these operations. This war with Iran started because of the United States. We're the one who did it for Israel. Make no mistake. It wouldn't be possible. None of this would be possible if it wasn't for this this welfare state in the Middle East that's destroying, just really basically bringing so much suffering to the entire planet. So, and he made, again, multiple tweets. He stated Israel must be stopped. This is a duty of humanity and the front of humanity. History must not be allowed to repeat itself. Despite all of Israel's sabotage, Turkey will do everything in its power to establish peace and tranquility. So this is really, there's a lot of this, and he says very similar things again. No one should hitch themselves to the wagon of the Zionist network of massacre. We are fully aware of the ultimate objective of the delusion of greater Israel is. God willing, we will never allow it. So, tensions are heating. They ended trade ties, but how much did they, there's a massive oil pipeline that goes through Turkey to Israel. That's still in place. Keep in mind, though, which I think is pretty interesting, and it goes to show the power of the Gaza flotilla, which people have, there's just mixed opinions on it. Back in 2010, there was a Gaza flotilla, because these have been going on for decades now. Israel's been holding a blockade on Gaza for decades. There was a Gaza flotilla back in 2010, and one of the Turkish boats, Israel murdered, I believe it was 10 Turkish participants. And prior to that, Israeli-Turk relations were relatively, at least not fiery, at least not where they are now. They were relatively, docile in that regard. And it set off after Israel murdered those 10 participants. It just shattered Turkish-Israel relations. Like, they recalled their ambassador. It became a very, very large thing. And immediately, once that happened, and the rhetoric from Turkey started to heighten, Israel immediately went to Greece. And prior to that, Greece used to be the most pro-Palestine country in Europe, one of the most pro-Palestine countries. The people very much so still are. Very, very much so the people still are. And immediately, once that happened, Israel jumped ship, went to Turkey, really started prioritizing strengthening its relationship with Greece and with Cyprus. And let me go ahead and actually show you this interactive map here. Sometimes maps are useful to kind of understand how the way the world works. So I have this map here that I want to show you guys, because it basically allows you to understand, how do I adjust these colors? Oh, here it is, the undo button. So it allows you to understand what's really going on in the region, all right? So here's a map of the region. Here's Turkey right over here. And let me start off by showing you all of Israel's allies right now. So here's Israel, and what it's doing is it's starting to strengthen its relations with Cyprus, and then of course with Greece. And here's Turkey right over here, and then also the United Arab Emirates. And also, here's Somalia. It's obviously the one country that it is, but Israel's trying to now, it already tried to recognize this independent state called Somaliland, which is at the Horn of Africa right here. And they're doing this to chop apart basically the country. And they're also trying to chop apart Yemen and make South Yemen so that way they can also have an Israeli ally there. So Israel's basically trying to create a network. They call it a hexagon. Why do they call it a hexagon? Well, what are the countries that it's trying to make part of this hexagon? Greece, Cyprus, Israel, United Arab Emirates, South Yemen, Somaliland, part of Sudan, which is why the civil war is happening there. Regardless, and the genocide. It's a Zionist. It's Zionist made. It's Zionist made from the early 2000s. Israel's trying to create a network, while Turkey is also building up its own network. How can I change the color here? So what Turkey is doing, and here's Turkey right over here. What Turkey is doing is it's building a counter network. And what it's deciding to do is and I don't want to flag Egypt right now, but what it's deciding to do is it's attempting to build a counter network to take on Israel's allies that it's building. Another Israeli ally is India as well, actually. Maybe I should just go ahead and mark India. The reason it's doing that is because they're trying to counter each other. See how Pakistan now aligned with Saudi Arabia? They have their own defense agreement. Turkey is over here. Now they're trying to align with each other. So India and Israel, if you're wondering why India has been getting closer to Israel, it's because of this. They're all trying to form counterweights to each other. There's this new regional axis that is forming on both sides in order to counter, really, ultimately, this is all done to counter Israeli aggression. So Israel's trying to build partners in the region to counter that. Same reason why Saudi Arabia recently took out the United Arab Emirates out of Yemen months back during the spring, where they took Yemeni forces out, they took UAE-backed forces and pushed the UAE out of Yemen. This was a couple years ago because they don't want an Israeli Zionist forces in its southern border. So this is all what's really going on. So that's why Israel is now aligning itself with Greece. Because of this region specifically, it just wants allies. And that's why recently, if you're looking at what Greek politicians are saying, a lot of them support Israel. A lot of them are saying this relationship with Israel doesn't even benefit us. It's all being done for Israel's interest because Israel wants a counterweight to Turkey. And of course, there's a lot of defense sharing and everything else now. When I was part of the flotilla, this last mission, just a month and a half ago, the Israelis, they intercepted our boats, about 30 of our boats in Greek waters. And the Greek government was fully on board. And they were sent to Crete, fully on board with the whole thing. So, they've really started sharing a lot of intelligence sharing, assisting them even. And this wouldn't have been a thing 25 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. It would have been nothing like it. So relations between Israel and Greece, unfortunately, have been warming. And this is now where we're at. So things are going to continue to get heightened. I don't see how things are really going to go down from here. And we already saw months ago as well, Naftali Bennett stating that Turkey is now the new Iran. Apparently, they're not done with war, and they're already pushing all of this anti-NATO sentiments, particularly because
Turkish threat is emerging.
They want Turkey out of NATO.
Clear. Turkey and Qatar have gained influence in Syria, are seeking influence elsewhere and everywhere throughout the region. And from here, I warn, Turkey is the new Iran.
Notice how nobody clapped, and then he waited and paused for a second, and he went from looking at the people to looking at the camera now to make it seem like he's really serious. Turkey is the new, he's really trying to get something out of people. This is what's going on now. They already are jumping to the next war before this war even finished. That's why you have your Laura Loomers, your Mark Levins, your Ben Shapiros. They're all pushing all this anti-Turk sentiment out because they're already, bloodthirsty for the next war. It doesn't end. So if you think that once this Iran problem is going to be solved, get ready for the next one. It doesn't end. These people will never be satisfied. Jonathan Pollard, he was recently interviewed on a podcast, and he said the same thing. He said the storm has not arrived yet. Who the hell do you think is backing you through all of this? This is why the United States needs to drop Israel, because they are going to drag us into the ground. Drag us into the ground. Drop them. Drop them. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, I'd appreciate it if you just go ahead and click the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up as well. It helps me reach more people like you. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.